Imagine opening a 500-year-old prayer book and coming face to face with an image so terrifying that it haunted the nightmares of millions. A colossal demonic mouth, wide open, flames roaring inside its throat. 5 naked souls writhing in agony, their bodies twisted, their silent screams frozen in time. This wasn't some horror movie poster. This was how medieval Europe visualized hell. And for centuries, this single image shaped the moral conscience of an entire civilization. Welcome to the story of the Hellmouth, one of the most powerful and disturbing symbols ever created. A symbol that began with Viking gods, evolved through medieval Christianity, and still echoes in modern art today. The manuscript we're about to explore is called The Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves, one of the most celebrated illuminated manuscripts of the 15th century. Turn to Folio 107, and there it is. On the right side of the page, a gigantic infernal mouth engulfs 5 damned souls. Their bare skin glows against the fire. Their faces contort in endless suffering. And beside this nightmare stands an angel, calm and watchful, guiding those who can still be saved toward redemption. This wasn't just decoration. This was a spiritual weapon.
5 centuries ago, the word Hellmouth was a common term for the entrance to hell. Medieval artists seized this concept and reproduced it relentlessly. They painted it on church facades, carved in stone. They etched it into cathedral doors. They hid it inside small private prayer books, like this one. These images weren't meant to inspire, they were meant to terrify, and they did. For generations, Europeans grew up seeing hell depicted as a devouring beast, an image that educated them, controlled them, and traumatized them. But here's the question that haunts art historians to this day. Who invented this? Where did this strangely specific idea of hell as a literal mouth even come from? The truth is, nobody knows who first imagined it. But if we trace the origins far enough back, the pieces start to come together. In 9th century England, Christian monks lived alongside Vikings. These weren't just raiders and warriors, they were storytellers, and one of their most chilling tales spoke of the end of the world. In Norse mythology, there existed a creature named Fenrir, a monstrous wolf born from chaos itself. According to legend, when the apocalypse arrived, Fenrir would break free from his chains and devour the gods. His size was incomprehensible. His lower jaw scraped the earth, while his upper jaw touched the sky. He would literally swallow the world whole. Now, in a small northern English town, there stands a carved stone monument called the Gosforth Cross. It was created over 1,000 years ago, a Christian symbol carved by Viking hands. On one of its panels, the god Vidar is shown prying open the jaws of Fenrir. This image is striking because centuries later, Christian artists would depict Christ in exactly the same way, tearing open the mouth of hell to free the righteous souls trapped inside. Same image, different meaning. The symbolism had been inherited, reinterpreted, and Christianized.
From there, the concept began to mutate. Anglo-Saxon writers started describing the devil as a dragon devouring sinners, echoing another Norse creature called Nidhogr, a serpent that gnawed on the corpses of the wicked at the edge of the underworld in Scandinavian mythology. Christianity, with its remarkable ability to absorb and transform pagan fears, adopted that image wholesale. Even the Bible provided fuel for this fire. In the book of Isaiah, it is written that Sheol, the Hebrew realm of the dead, opens its mouth wide to swallow the wicked. Then there's Leviathan, the sea monster symbolizing chaos and evil, described as a dragon of the abyss. And in the Gospels, there's Gehenna, an actual valley outside Jerusalem where trash and corpses were burned day and night. It was the perfect real-world model for eternal fire. So medieval artists didn't invent anything from scratch. They simply connected the dots. If hell was a place of fire and also a beast that devoured, then logically its entrance had to be its mouth. Simple, brutal, absolutely unforgettable. The Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves was commissioned around 1440 by Isabel of Egmond, a Dutch noblewoman, as a gift for her daughter, Catherine. It wasn't painted by a single famous master, but by a workshop of Brabant artists who specialized in creating luxury miniatures for the wealthy elite. This book became legendary in its time because it was one of the most elaborate manuscripts ever produced. Gold leaf glimmered on nearly every page. Colors were vivid and luminous. Margins overflowed with intricate details. The brushwork was so delicate that a single misplaced fingerprint could ruin hours of labor. In its time, this book served as a private devotional tool, used for prayer, meditation, and intercession for the dead. The Hellmouth scene appears in the section dedicated to prayers for the deceased, specifically on page 107, at the exact moment when the reader is meant to contemplate death and salvation. The page opens with that infernal mouth. 5 souls burn inside. An angel watches nearby, ready to guide the worthy toward grace. The purpose of including such a terrifying image in a book used for private prayer was simple: fear. Every time the reader turned to that page, they were reminded of what awaited them if they strayed from righteousness. The image was designed to linger in the mind long after the book was closed. It was meant to follow you out of the study, out of the chapel, into your daily life. Fear, after all, is one of the most effective motivators. It disciplines, it shapes behavior. And in an era when salvation was negotiated through fasting, confession, penance, and good deeds, showing hell this way was a direct method of molding people's consciences. Over time, the Hellmouth escaped the confines of prayer books and spread to the grand paintings of the age. The fear that once fit within a miniature now covered entire cathedral walls. The artists of Northern Europe, especially in the Netherlands, seized that visual language and pushed it to its most extreme and grotesque form. Only a few decades after the Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves, in the workshop of Hieronymus Bosch, the tradition exploded into full surreal horror. Bosch's followers transformed the Hellmouth into a portal to the underworld, blending religion, nightmare, and dark humor into something entirely new. In works like The Last Judgment Triptych or The Garden of Earthly Delights, we no longer see a simple mouth swallowing souls. We see entire cities burning inside it. Demons crawl over twisted bodies. Strange hybrid creatures populate every corner. It's the same concept born from Viking mythology centuries earlier, but now taken to the edge of hallucinatory madness. The Hellmouth stopped being just a spiritual warning. It became a visual experience of pure chaos. And here's the most fascinating part. This iconography never died. It simply evolved. Symbolist artists of the 20th century, like Alfred Kubin, continued exploring hell through that same compositional idea. In his 1900 work Into the Unknown, painted 500 years after the Book of Hours of Catherine of Cleves, the same message endures. A vast crowd slowly advances toward a gigantic mouth in the distance. There are no demons pushing them, no fire, no screams like in the Middle Ages, only a resigned human tide walking calmly toward its fate. It's the same medieval concept, souls entering hell, but this time it has nothing to do with religion. The punishment doesn't come from God, it comes from ourselves, from our choices, our despair, our acceptance of oblivion. Kubin understood something the medieval artists also knew. The true power of the Hellmouth isn't in its teeth, it's in what it represents. That universal, primal feeling that there exists a place or a consequence from which no one can escape, a threshold beyond redemption. Maybe that's why we can say, without exaggeration, that this medieval image traumatized millions of people. And in some way, it still does. Now, here's a question worth pondering. Did these images have a positive influence on society? In a way, thanks to art like this, medieval people refrained from behaviors we would consider monstrous today. Fear worked as a moral compass, and it was undeniably effective. But perhaps the price of that fear was far too high. Perhaps controlling people through terror, even well-intentioned terror, leaves scars that last for generations. What do you think? Was the Hellmouth a tool of salvation or a weapon of psychological control? The answer might depend on which side of history you're standing on.